Hello everyone, I'm Kathryn DeSinaasappelen and I'm still sick, mainly because it's only been like 5 seconds. But look, I changed my sweater, so now you don't know that it's the same day. Today I'm doing a language book review if you're interested in resources to help you learn languages. And if you missed yesterday's video where I talked about Dutch resources, where I sort of mentioned these books, you should check it out. Link will be above. Or maybe it's on this side, I don't know. When it comes to getting a language dictionary, it's pretty straightforward. I personally don't have a specific dictionary in mind that's like the best or that I would highly recommend. I would just say go with an actual dictionary in your target language. And if you're at a level where you wouldn't be able to understand the explanation in a foreign language, then get a picture dictionary. As I stated yesterday, like this does have the translations in English, but as you can see, it also just has a picture. So you don't necessarily need to associate the word with the translated word. You can sort of associate the picture with the word, and that will help the word stick into your mind, unless you're a different kind of learner than you do you. But yeah, I would highly recommend like a picture dictionary or an actual dictionary in your target language to help you better learn your target language. I love this series, and this is the French version, and we also have the Dutch version. And just so you can see, like, this is how mean French verbs are, and this is how mean Dutch verbs are. Like, look how much tinier this book is, and how thinner this book is, because French verbs are evil. But I'd highly recommend the fully conjugation books by like the 200, 501 series, because these are really great books. From the back, we'll give you idioms that are associated with the verbs. And albeit this isn't necessarily important, when I went to France the first time, I never used the bottom of the page because I was still learning the verbs. But once I knew the verbs, having idioms that went with the verbs came in really useful, because like idioms is one of those things that they don't necessarily translate 100% in your language. And so being able to have an association with that really can help you. And they don't have that in the Dutch one. Here's an example page. It's literally just the verbs and the conjugation. And it's not as bad as the French, because the French has 15 tenses. Dutch has 8. Okay, but the best part about this series is that the beginning of the book starts off with the grammar section, and the grammar section in this book made all the grammar books that I've ever bought to help me learn French grammar freaking obsolete. I mean, I have 3 different French grammar books, and the way that it's explained in these books, it's like la 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 la. That's how much I don't understand it. But this explains French grammar in such an easy, relatable way that I understand it. So this is like the only French book that I needed when I was in France, because it had the French grammar section, it had the conjugation, it has a small dictionary at the back, it has even more French verbs that aren't fully conjugated. It's an amazing book. If you're learning French, get this book, because French conjugation is evil and you will need this. And just to give you an example of how evil French is, like French people actually have a French conjugation book that is just like this, only it's a lot smaller and it's red and it's only filled with the difficult, irregular French verbs. You just happen to get all of those plus the normal irregular verbs plus some of the normal verbs. You know, that's one thing I really don't miss about living in France, is having to do verbs, because like as much as I complain about the Dutch verbs, like they are so much easier in Dutch than in France. Oh, French verbs. Yeah, so this book is just as great The only downside to it is that it doesn't have the idiom section that I talked about, but at least at this stage in my Dutch learning experience, that isn't necessarily important, but it is something that I would like to have, because there are certain things like in English we say, I am 21 years old, I am thirsty, I am hungry. And in French, for example, you would say, I have 24 years, or I have thirst, or I have hunger, right? And then in Dutch, just to like mess with you, it changes, and I say think because I get this confused all the time. I think it's I am 24 years, and then it's I have hunger and I have thirst. Or it's backwards and it's I have 24 years and then I am hungry and I am thirsty. I don't remember, it's just, it's a mental brain twist. And if they had that type of thing in this book, I feel like I would remember it more, because I just don't look it up and I just like wing it. Second downside to this book is that when it comes to the grammar section in the beginning, it doesn't explain it as well as, say, DutchGrammar.com explains it. Because in Dutch, you have weak verbs and you have strong verbs, and I really could not understand what the heck they were talking about when it came to these strong and weak verbs. The grammar section explained it, but not in a way that I was able to understand it without having to go and find outside resources to help. And then the last thing that I don't like, Dutch verbs are actually evil too, in that you have verbs that separate in Dutch, and those verbs really are not covered that much in this book. You don't treat verbs that separate the same as verbs that don't. And sometimes I will get verbs that I have to know for my Dutch class, and they're not in this book, and it makes me mad, because apparently they're well enough known in my Dutch class that I have to know them, but not enough to be in this book. So comparatively, the French version is a lot better than the Dutch version. So like, no pressure or anything, but the people that make this book, if they could make a new edition for this book and have it be more like the French version maybe, I would buy it, because I do think that even though it's not as in depth as the French version, this is still a lifesaver. Oh my goodness, because I use this all the time. And the nice thing is that in my Dutch class, our teachers are always like, you can't use your cell phones, but you can use any books that you have, and so I can use this. Yeah, it's great because it's such a great book. It really is. Because conjugation is evil. And I'm not biased, but I'm just saying that, like, in English, we really don't have conjugation that much, and our language is able to work. So, like, realistically, if other languages really wanted to get rid of all the conjugation, it wouldn't be that difficult. I will have Amazon affiliate links to these books in the description below. If you're not taking French or Dutch, you can still find these books in Russian, and German, Spanish. I know, because I also have those books. Because this is a really good series. It really is. Highly recommend it. I'm gonna say that you guys probably know what to do when it comes to YouTube videos, and if you don't, you fail at the internet. I'm sorry, I'm too sick to like do the whole thing. I'll see you guys in the next one. Tootsies, my applesines. What kind of story? I got asparagus soup today, and I wanted to get this soup for forever, but I always get outvoted between Prince Charming and the children with tomato soup with meatballs, which is just wrong, because anything that has like tomato and meatballs should be eaten with spaghetti.